Let's be honest. Have you ever found yourself standing in the middle of a grocery store, just completely paralyzed? It feels like every single day there's some new diet, some new study telling you what you should be eating. It's enough to make you want to give up and just grab a donut. We're more confused about food than ever before. So why is it so complicated? I mean, eating is the most natural thing in the world, right? How did we manage to turn this simple act of feeding ourselves into this source of constant stress and anxiety? Well, for a long time, we thought we had it all figured out. It all started with one bad guy, fat. For decades, we were told fat was the enemy. And this wasn't just some fad. Research in books like Food Politics shows this campaign started way back in the 60s, and it led to this explosion of low-fat everything on our shelves. And then, just like that, the script flipped. Suddenly, fat was back in, and a new villain took its place, carbohydrates. The pendulum just swung to the complete opposite side, and a whole new industry popped up to sell us on bread-free, potato-free living. And it just keeps going, doesn't it? Paleo, keto, you name it. It's just this constant whirlwind of nutritional noise, and it's almost impossible to figure out what's actually good for you anymore. But right in the middle of all that chaos, author Michael Pollan came along with this. Just 7 words. It's so simple, it's radical, it's not a diet, it's a manifesto. A way to cut through all the junk and get back to what really matters. So how do we actually put this into practice? We're going to break this elegant little phrase down into 4 big ideas, and we're going to start with what seems like the simplest question of them all. Okay, first things first. To really get what Pollan means by eat food, we kind of have to start with what isn't food. We have to talk about these modern inventions, these highly processed, scientifically engineered things that, only look like food. And that brings us to this really important idea called nutritionism. Basically, it's the belief that a food is nothing more than the sum of its parts. So an apple isn't an apple. It's just a delivery system for vitamin C and fiber. And as you'll see in books like Food Politics, this is a gift to the food industry. It lets them break foods down, reassemble it, and then sell you junk food by screaming, "Now with added vitamins," on the box. And when you put these 2 ways of thinking side by side, it's just, wow. On one side, you've got whole foods, stuff our great-grandparents would recognize, rooted in tradition. On the other, you've got nutritionism. It uses the language of science to convince you that a sugary cereal bar is a health food because it has some added fiber. It's a totally different universe.
And believe it or not, this isn't some new thing. As Deborah Bloom shows in The Poison Squad, this obsession with making food last forever started over a century ago. I mean, look at this ad from the early 1900s. The goal was already shifting away from fresh and towards, indestructible.
And this just says it all, right? A potato is a potato. It comes from the ground. But the frozen fry you get at a fast food joint, as Fast Food Nation lays out, it's an industrial product. It goes through a dozen different steps, gets coated in chemicals, all for the sake of making every single fry look and taste exactly the same. It's not about nutrition, it's about uniformity. Okay, so that brings us right to the second part of the manifesto, not too much. And this is about way more than just watching your portion sizes. This is about reclaiming the entire culture of how we eat. Just listen to this from Edna Lewis. She paints this beautiful picture of a time when food was completely woven into the fabric of community and work and celebration. A meal was an event. It was the reward you shared with others. It wasn't just about refueling your body. It was about reconnecting with each other. Now, compare that beautiful image to the world we see in Fast Food Nation. In that world, food is just an industrial good. The whole system is built for speed and efficiency, so much so that meals are meant to be eaten alone, in your car. The human element, from the worker to the person eating, is almost completely stripped away. That's not eating, that's just fueling. And what's crazy is how fast this all happened. It really kicks off after World War II with these new marvels of convenience, like Cheese Whiz. And by the 1990s, as you see in Fast Food Nation, this industrial, standardized way of eating had basically conquered the globe. So that brings us to the final piece of the manifesto, mostly plants. And this piece is huge because it connects what's on your plate, not just to your own health, but to the health of the entire planet. This quote from James Rebanks perfectly captures what a traditional farm used to be. It was this diverse, resilient little ecosystem, right? You had all sorts of plants and animals living together, working together. This was the norm for hundreds of years. But then, everything changed. As Barbara Kingsolver explains in Animal Vegetable Miracle, after World War II, the chemical plants that had been making explosives for the war were repurposed. They started churning out synthetic fertilizers. And that led to these massive surpluses of super cheap corn and soy, which pushed farming away from that diverse model and towards these giant single-crop industrial farms. And Wendell Berry just nails what we lost in that shift. We basically traded the farmer's deep, hands-on knowledge of the land for fossil fuels and chemicals. We swapped care and stewardship for industrial efficiency. It totally changed our relationship with the land we live on. And look, this isn't just some romantic idea about the good old days. The numbers don't lie. Data from books like The Unsettling of America shows that organic farms, which are naturally more diverse, are just wildly more energy efficient. They use about a third of the fossil fuel to produce the same amount of value. That is a staggering difference. It shows that mostly plants is also a vote for a much more sustainable system. So we've seen the rise of nutritionism, the industrialization of our food. We know how we got here. The real question is, what do we do about it? How do we navigate this crazy landscape? Well, Pollan's Manifesto breaks down into some really simple, really powerful rules of thumb. And these rules are just brilliant because they're not about counting calories. They're about culture. Shop the peripheries? That works because that's where all the real food is. The produce, the meat, the dairy. The processed stuff lives in the middle aisles. The 5-ingredient rule is just a quick check for hyperprocessing. And my favorite, the great-grandmother test, is just a simple way to filter out all the weird modern stuff. Even eat at a table is a powerful reminder that how we eat matters just as much as what we eat. They're all just clever tricks to get us back to real food. But look, our personal choices can only take us so far. As Marion Nestle argues so powerfully in Food Politics, we also need bigger, systemic change. We have to work together to build a food system where the healthy choice is also the easy choice. And that takes collective responsibility from all of us, communities, companies, and governments. And so, that leaves us with this one big question to chew on. When we start to see our dinner not just as a purchase, but as an agricultural act, everything changes. It connects us back to the soil, to the farms, and to the massive web of life that every single one of our food choices touches. So what will your next meal say?